some self-rescue techniques for you. Okay, so what is self-rescue? Basically rescuing yourself. The idea here is that basically in all these scenarios I'm going to show you, I've crashed a kite on the water and I can't relaunch the kite. This could be for many reasons, but the long and short of it is I can't relaunch my kite. I'm not going to be able to fly my kite, so I'm not going to be able to get back to the water. I got a few examples I want to show you, ranging from I'm close to the beach to I'm a long way out, further than I should be, further than I can swim back in, out of my depth, and you know, I can't release all my equipment because I'm worried I might not be able to swim back in. So hopefully you learned something from these videos. It's not just for beginners here. A lot of people that we see in the water don't, you know, they might be quite experienced. They don't know how to do a self-rescue, or at least how to do it properly. We teach these things in our kitesurf lessons, in our basic beginner kitesurf lessons, normally on day 2. But the reality is when you leave a kitesurf lesson, this is not the thing you remember the most. It's not the thing you practice the most. Everyone goes straight out, tries to keep going with the board, practice body dragging because you have to, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that when you actually come to need to do a self-rescue, most people can't remember, or they don't have the refreshed skills to practice. So this is really important. Have a look at this video. Even if it triggers your memory, I'd highly recommend getting out there and practicing this as well. But at least you can watch this video and you can reference this next time you're in trouble. Cheers, guys. Okay, so first things first, really important you understand your safety system, and particularly your flag out system on your kite. This is a 4-line bar. It's got a single line flag out. So what happens when I connect my leash, it connects to that line there, which runs to the middle of the bar. Then this red line comes through a splitter here and connects to one of my center lines. It's really important you understand this because this is part of the safety system, and we've got to make sure that your kite fully flags out when you do a self-rescue. If you notice, I follow this line all the way up the bar until I get to this stoppable. That's where the line will eventually stop, and it will stop the bar from running too far. So now I'm going to simulate what happens when we release our chicken loop. We release the chicken loop, it activates our flag out line. Now, because there's no pressure on this, sometimes we might have to give this bar a push. So this could happen in the water if you don't have a lot of power in the kite. We're going to make sure that bar will freely slide all the way up. So if it does get caught on a knot or get snagged in the bar, we're going to make sure we push it away. You'll see now what happens. I'm not touching that bar, it's sliding up that center line. What it's going to do is when we get to that stoppable, that is halfway up the kite. So if you don't have a stoppable, make sure your bar goes at least halfway, and that means the kite is now fully flagged out. So we're going to start here with a really simple self-rescue. This is the kind of self-rescue I do if I'm quite close to the shore. See how I flagged my kite out there? I've released it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swim sideways to the beach. Got to make sure I don't swing downwind to the kite. When you're doing this kind of self-rescue, it's really important that you understand there can't be anyone downwind of you. I've had a look. There's no one between me and my kite. Really important we remember that downwind distance. Again, you know, this is a really simple self-rescue. It only works though if I'm close enough to swim into the beach. When I get to where I can stand up, I'm going to pull that flag out line in towards me. You'll notice here when I get to the bar, the kite's fully flagged out. Take a note where that stoppable is. You can see it here. That means the kite's fully flagged out. What I can do now is continue up that center line. Really important you make sure it's the same line. It's that flag out line that we looked at the start of this video. I'm going to get all the way to the kite. At which point I can get hold of the kite, I can turn it over and I can walk back to the beach and secure that kite. Just remember, this form of self-rescue will only work if we're close enough to the beach that we can swim in. Otherwise, we have to go to one of our other self-rescues, which we're going to show you next. Okay guys, so I'm just body dragging out so I get enough depth that I'm not able to touch the ground to show you this first kind of self-rescue. This is probably the self-rescue I do if, you know, if I didn't have a lot of time, or if there's no waves or no obstacles in the water. If you're in a nice clean area like this, there's nothing I can get my lines caught on. It's probably the easiest and the safest way. This is actually the way we generally teach people for the first time to do a self-rescue. So here we go. Okay, so first things first, I need to flag out that kite. You notice the bar goes away when I release. Remember, that's under pressure there. So if the kite's in the water and it gets snagged on the bar, make sure that we push that bar away a little bit. We've got to make sure in all these self-rescues that by the time we get to the bar, it's halfway down the line or it's hit our stoppable. Again, if you don't have a stoppable on your kite, just make sure it's halfway down that line. So here I am with my bar. You can see now it's on that stopper board. It can't go any further. What I'm going to have a look at now is I need to get rid of all that slack line that's from this flag, that's the flag out line basically. I don't want to get that caught around me, so I'm going to get one of the bar ends and I'm going to wrap all that center line around the bar end like this. It's just getting that slack away from me. I don't want it around my feet when I'm doing my self-rescue, so I just keep wrapping that up. I'm going to wrap up until I get to on this bar where the red line starts, but you basically need about a meter away from your body. That meter between your leash and the bar at this point. What's going to happen when I get to that point, I'm going to tie this off in a half hitch, put the half hitch over the bar, and once that's on and locked in tight, I can actually let go of the bar and then continue with the self-rescue. What happens once I've locked that bar in, I'm now really looking, I'm still looking for that flag out line. Now that'll be the line under tension here. Really important that we remember that is the line we're looking for. There it is, I can see the ball on the end of it. It'll be the line under tension. Those are the slack lines. I don't want to touch those lines at all during this self-rescue. What I'm going to do now, without swimming or kicking, I'm pulling myself up this line to the kite. Think of it as a rope climb here. We're not swimming or kicking. We will have lines around us at this point. As soon as we get to the kite, we can have a go at trying to unravel those lines from us. Not super important here. Get to the center of the kite, take a rest for a second. Then what we're going to do is we're going to work our way over to the kite to one wingtip so we can turn it over. Again, back to the center of the kite now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the wingtip that's closest to the beach and I'm going to get hold of the bridle line here. You'll see I want to catch that line where the center line connects to the bridle. Then I'm going to work my way all the way to the opposite side of the wingtip and create a sail in the kite just like this. What that's going to do now is it's going to let the wind will pull me back towards the beach. So this is the self-rescue I'd use in a clean, open beach. I wouldn't use this if I was coming in, this method if I was coming in through waves, because you'll see in a moment there's quite a lot of slack lines and tangled lines around me. Not too much of a problem if you've got a nice, clean, open beach, but if not, we've got seaweed, we've got waves, I'm going to go for the next method, which I'll show you now. Okay, so here's the method I'm going to use of self-rescue if I don't want all those slack lines around me. Could be, for example, I got caught out in Dongri, lots of seaweed. I don't want those lines dragging through, so I want to wrap those lines up this time basically. Also, if I'm coming in through the shore break, through waves, I don't want all those lines hanging around, so I'm going to use a slightly different technique now. This one will take longer, but you know, most of the time you've got time in this situation. So if you don't have as much, you know, if you see an obstacle or there's people downwind of you, don't use this method. But this is a nice way to get in with no lines hanging around. So same as before, I'm going to wrap that flag out line around the bar end. Nothing different so far. We're wrapping all that line around until we get to the red line. You'll see when I get to that red line, same as before, I'm just going to tie that off with a half hitch. Here we go, we keep wrapping. Just a little bit further. If you don't have that red line, it's about a meter away. This is important because this gives you room to move the bar. Now, we need to make sure our leash, because I'm wearing a short leash, that we have enough space to rotate this bar. So I lock that in spot. And now what I'm looking for, again, I'm looking for the line with tension on it. That is my flag out line. You'll see that now. You'll see this is my flag out line now. You can see it's got tension on it. Then I've got my slack lines next to it. Now I'm going to wrap all these lines around the bar, but it's really important that you always wrap that center line. If you don't wrap that tight line and you wrap the slack lines up, you're going to power your kite back up. So notice what I'm doing now. I'm just guiding those slack lines around and I'm using this bar almost as a pulley. So I'm never actually touching that line under tension. So I just twist that bar around, I guide the lines on, then pull with the top of the bar. You see, I keep doing this until I get to the kite. Now, this isn't easy in strong winds, but again, you know, if I do a lot of my kiting in the waves, so I definitely don't want all these slack lines around me if I have to do a self-rescue. You know, if you've got time, this is the way to do it. Again, if you feel like there's hazards downwind of you and you want to get back to that kite quicker, maybe go back to the first method we showed you. You can see, even in with faster speed here on the video, you can see it still takes a little bit of time. It's never tidy. If you miss the slack lines, it doesn't matter, but we've got to make sure, again, we're always wrapping up that flag out line. That ensures that the kite stays flagged out all the way through this process. What I'm going to do when I get to the kite, I'm going to secure that just by putting a line tidier over the end, and then I'm going to pull myself up the kite until I get to the leading edge. Same thing as before here. I'm going to get to the center of the leading edge, take a break, and now I'm going to go to one edge of the kite and just spin that kite over. It needs to be on its back. Turn that kite over, then I'm going to go to the center. Now I'm going to the wingtip closest to the beach, and I'm going to get hold of that line where the bridle meets the center line. You can see where the knot is there. That is where I'm grabbing that line. See where I've got it there? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way back to the opposite wingtip. Notice here I've got my left hand on the line. That's important. Now I'm going to lay myself just in my armpit underneath that leading edge, and then I'm just going to drag myself back to the beach. Again, you'll see what will happen here. Actually, in this situation, I am coming back in through waves. They're not big waves, but they've still got the chance, if I've got slack lines, of getting tangled around me. If a wave hits me and I have to let go of this kite, the lines are in a fairly tidy situation now. I haven't got a lot of slack lines around me. And that's important, especially if you're coming back through big waves. You'll see now in a moment, we're coming back through a small shore break. Even in this situation, I want to be careful. Now I've got no problems, I've got no lines caught around me, so I can just cruise on back to the beach. Again, this takes a little bit of time. Expect the further you're out, you're not going to win any world sailing records here, but you are going to get yourself safely back to the beach. All I'm doing here is just body dragging in until I can stand up. So I put my feet on the ground, I can stand up, pick the kite up, walk the kite back to the beach and secure it on the beach. When we're teaching self-rescue, people always ask, what about the board? Well, at this point, your main concern is getting back to the beach as fast as possible with this self-rescue. Once you've got back to the beach, you can put the kite on the beach and you can start looking for your board out in the ocean. The faster you do it, the quicker you'll be able to get your board back. Okay, so all the self-rescues I've shown you so far rely on this flag out line working. It's one of our center flag out line here. So you'll see that line goes up through, hits that top line, and that's where we flag out. But what happens if we have a problem with that line? If we can't use that flag out line, we're going to turn one of the other lines into a flag out. It could be because it's snapped or broken or twisted or tangled. What I really want to try and do here is use the opposite center line as my flag out. I can use one of the outside lines, but that tends to make the kite spin. So here we go. Notice here I'm not going to release my chicken loop. I'm going to reach up and I'm going to grab the opposite center line to my normal flag out line. Then I'm going to run up it. I am going as fast as I can, pulling myself up that line. Remember, I have to get halfway before that kite is fully flagged out. Once I'm halfway, there's no problem. Once you start running up that line, you really need to commit. I've run all the way up that line until I get to the kite, and then we go through the same process as before. We get the kite, we bring it back, round, and then I'm going to body drag myself back in. Really important though, if we're going to use this technique, we're going to commit to running up that line. Ideally one of the center lines, but if we can't, we'll grab any one of those lines to flag out our kite. Again, you always have the option to release your kite, but let's just say that you're further out than you think you could swim back in, and we've got a problem. Our normal flag out line won't work. We can actually turn any one of our lines into our flag out line. Just like I just did then, we've got to make sure we go up that line as fast as possible, turn it into a flag out line, and then, as before, we can get back to the beach and secure our kite safely. Okay guys, so there was a few basic self-rescue techniques. I hope you learned something from that. Now please go out and practice these things. If you want specific lessons on these, we can also help you out with that.